I just couldn't wrap my head around sending a buyer out to land. Pictured like a couple, and it's all wooded and brush, and they're freaking chopping their way through it.
Is putting small structures on the property. I'll see if I can find one on my phone here. Oh, I know it's kind of hard to see. I think hunting cabins on there, Dan. I bet ROI-wise, probably the best. He said it. He thought it added like 30 grand, 35,000.
Electric, you can hook up to the property. Not that expensive. A lot of these companies, they'll give you a certain amount for free sometimes, or they'll charge you by 100 feet, 10 feet, whatever it is. Hey everyone, we're back with another episode. In today's topic, we're talking about 5 ways to improve the value and get more value from your land here in 2025. And a lot of this was inspired by what we've seen in the market, ways to not only sell your properties for more money, but to sell them quicker, add more value. And that's what this topic's about, Ron, is just adding value to your property from just minor improvements that you can do.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this. A lot of people are doing these, so I think making them more public, I guess, what we're seeing the most of, what people are kind of making the most money on. So really excited to talk about these.
And Kay was saying it makes her acquisitions much more comfortable because when you're going in double closing, and that's primarily what Kay does, when she's going in double closing and she's talking to a seller and she's just saying, hey, I'm just going to sell your property and list it on the market for 90 days, 180 days as is, it can create a little bit of a rough area, I think, when you're negotiating. And it kind of feels like the value's not there, if that makes sense. But now when you're adding an improvement to your double close, which Kay's doing, the conversation becomes much more easy. Here's what I'm going to do to your land. Here's the work I'm putting in. We can partner on this. All I need is this. I can get you that $70,000. I'm going to clear the trees out. I'm going to clear some brush out. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then in their mind, it's like, oh, you're doing all this work. This makes sense. And it gives you leverage for negotiation, essentially.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. I remember her talking about that, though.
100%. So where do you want to get started, Ron?
Let's get started. These are all really, really good and high value ones. Let's just get started with subdividing, Dan. This is a little different one because this is one where it's a little different, but you are improving the value of the land because you're making multiple parcels out of it. This is going to be the only one that's not like altering the land, the actual physical land, but subdividing essentially, and we've talked about subdividing so much in other episodes, is essentially cutting up the land from 50 acres. And as you get smaller parcels, when you cut it down into 10-acre parcels, it is increasing value because you are essentially increasing the price per acre because you're lowering the amount of acres per parcel.
Yeah, and I don't want this to turn into a subdividing episode, but at the same time, you can literally get a survey on your 20 acres and get a couple lots out of it. It doesn't need to be anything crazy, and increase your price 30%.
I think at whole, Dan, like when we're talking about this episode, guys, it is what improvements give you the ability to buy land on the front end, maybe for more money. So I think that's kind of the whole basis of these. Any of these improvements, or you're going to see an ROI if you're doing it correctly. Subdividing is very basic in terms of doing that, but it allows all these 5 are going to allow you to buy the parcel for more upfront if you can do it well.
And a lot of what we're going to talk about will increase the sellability of it.
For
I think
sure.
That's a big part too.
100%. So subdividing, and we're not going to talk, like Dan said, we're not going to talk long about subdividing. It is breaking up 50 acres into 5 10-acre parcels. There is an increased value of those total 50 acres after you do that because the price per acre goes up for 10 acres essentially versus 50. But moving on, Dan, from there, I think the next one, I mean, we can talk about any of these, but I think clearing, like select clearing, what a lot of people do for a home site, or you can talk about home site prep even with this, where you have 10 acres and you're clearing an area for the end buyer for a home site. This is, talk about the value in that from, I think we talk about it from like a buyer's perspective, like the end buyer. What are they?
That's how you all have to look at improvements from what value you bring in the buyer. Because that's how you're increasing your money. They have to get value to increase their money. Without additional value, the money's not going to increase. And I always picture from the very start when we did this, Ron, I just couldn't wrap my head around sending a buyer out to land who doesn't know land. And it's like, where do they go? Where's this? How do I get back there? You know, because I used to do a lot of the sales on the disposition side. And I just like those calls would be very difficult. They're just walking through. I pictured like a couple just walking through the land, like, oh, this is the land, and it's all wooded and brush, and they're freaking chopping their way through it, kind of like our property, Ron.
They don't even know if they're on our land.
And they don't even know if they're on our land. So I think when you're talking about clearing, and we won't get into, I mean, this could be driveways too, but a path to get to the best area where the building site's going to be. I think that's where you get the best return right there, is a path from the road to the building area, and then the building area cleared out.
And for those of you who don't like see the value in this, which I think most people will, but go schedule wherever you are, go schedule a visit on 10 acres of wooded land, and then you'll quickly see like the value of clearing land for an end buyer. Because the first time I realized it, honestly, Dan, is when we visited our Kentucky land that we bought. And it was painful to walk through. Like there's thorns that are 2 inches,
everywhere.
ticks, and it's just there's no comfortable path to walk to maybe a cleared area.
We had to bring the truck out.
Oh my goodness, yeah, we had to drive through with the truck. Like the value in that, and like there's gonna be so many more interested end buyers if it's easy to access everything like that. So clearing basically to a buildable spot, what you deem a buildable spot. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to have what do they call it, Dan? The concrete doesn't have to have anything like that. The slab or anything, but just having an area cleared, and at minimum they can get to that area and then envision kind of their future with the land.
Yeah, it's nice. They're walking there. Maybe it's wide enough they can drive a car on it, ideally, up to that buildable spot. But you think the value that provides, and then what you can do is have your realtor or someone just put a marker, wrap a thing around a tree, an orange like the sleeve around a tree, and like that's your enter here point. And you walk through it, and you're looking to your right, you're looking to your left, you're analyzing the land, and then you get to this nice beautiful view, or this nice beautiful area. Maybe it's the spot with views. It's flat. It's nice. That's a big selling point. I think that's probably number one in terms of cost efficient in return to the returns you're going to get.
Let's talk about that, Dan, and I'll back up to subdividing real fast because I want to put some costs on these as far as like what you should be seeing, because some people are going to get quotes for $12,000 for clearing land and they think it's good, but as far as subdividing, that's going to cost like $3,000-$4,000. Clearing, like if you're doing a 1 acre clearing and clearing a path to that, I don't think you should be above $3,000, Dan.
Yeah, it depends the type of clearing they're doing and how thick it is. If it's just brush and not big trees,
1,500.
Yeah, you're looking pretty cheap. But if it's a bunch of trees in the way that you need to move, and you shouldn't need for the car, you're going to need to remove trees. But for the building spot, you can remove a lot of the brush, maybe remove a tree or two. But you still want trees in their yard, right? Like where it's their future building spot potentially. So you don't want to get rid of the really nice trees. You want to get rid of all the brush and the crap and the bad trees that are just there and overgrown, and make it really nice so they can walk and drive up and get to their area. It's more like select cutting almost, as you'd say.
For sure. So that's a big one, guys. So we had subdividing, we had clearing. Going from there, Dan, I think it transitions really well into like a real driveway. And you would probably combine a real driveway with clearing. Like I don't think you would just put a driveway to nowhere. Like I think combining, so improvement number 3 is adding a driveway.
To the clearing that we just did, pretty much.
Correct.
If we cleared that area out for a car, which I would, at minimum do a path so they can get back there, which you will still get a return on. I think if you did like a 5-foot trail, that you're just walking and they can easily get back there, you'll see a return on that, no doubt. But if you could do a car and then put a driveway on it, driveways are very, very expensive though. So maybe you just keep it dirt and you just clear it nice so there's not even grass there and it's just dirt driveway. And you let the seller or the future buyer put in the gravel if they want to, or you go all out and you put a gravel driveway.
Yeah, putting a gravel driveway, we've never done that. We've done very high, I don't know if you say high quality dirt driveways, but we've cleared dirt paths, because if you do the wrong spot or something, gravel, like Dan said, it's very, very pricey. Like you could easily be $25,000. It depends on the length for sure, slope, everything
and
like that. But yeah, you definitely could end up being $15,000, $20,000. That is the one, the risk. I don't know if you're going to see an ROI on that one. Not necessarily because there's not value in it. It's more so like it's so expensive. Like to see a return on that, you just got to.
That's going to be.
You definitely want to combine that with other improvements, because the other improvements might be minimal compared to the driveway. So if you have a driveway and clearing all these other combined, I think then you could maybe see a return, but it's expensive.
Or driveway and then your subdivide.
Mm-hmm. But end buyer might not want a gravel driveway. Obviously, it's a little bit of an improvement for sure, but. Yeah, I would probably keep it dirt for now.
Ever wondered how land investing can be the fastest path to financial freedom? I break it all down in my new book, One Lot at a Time. I'll show you exactly how to find, buy, and flip land for huge profits without dealing with houses, tenants, or any crazy renovations. It's simple. This is the book that I wish I had when I first started. If you're ready to take control of your financial future, grab a copy now. One Lot at a Time by Daniel Apke, Find it at your local bookstore or on Amazon.com.
Going from there, Dan, again, another improvement that you can combine with pretty much all of these is utilities.
Yeah, utilities. It's not, depends how far off the road you are, but you're talking septic. If you even getting a perk test, right? So let's talk about the different utilities first.
Let's combine perk tests with utilities for sure.
Yeah, so you have the perk test, you have electric, you have water if you need a well or city water, whatever you're in. Usually it's going to be well in rural America. Those are the main ones, Ron.
Yeah, septic is huge, but a perk combined with septic. So a perk test, guys, essentially checking the soil's absorption for a septic system. And if you're selling 5 acres, people are going to want perk tests. So you having this is going to drastically help. And then you actually putting a septic, like getting a plan. I think utilities kind of can go with a whole building plan almost, Dan.
Yeah.
Like we've seen some really detailed ones like in Colorado with really big slope, and like you hit the find and then there might be excavation involved. We're not really talking about that. But as far as getting it build ready, like everything up till that, just like when you talk about entitling something, entitling is getting it all the way up till like subdividing and breaking it down, all the permits. Like you getting up to that point of building for this is going to have a tremendous value.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think you need to put the septic in because you don't know what kind of structure they're going to put there. If they're going to put a mansion in that has 10 bathrooms versus a 3-bathroom one, I would get the perk test ready and approved. And that's an asset right there. That perk test is an asset, and then you don't need to worry about where the perk test or where the septic's going exactly and what their plans are. But you have it there, you have it ready, and you can sell it. Electric, you can hook up to the property though. That's a really, really solid one. Like people really
it's cheap too.
It's not that expensive. A lot of these companies will do it for fixed. It just depends what area you're in the company, but they'll give you a certain amount for free sometimes that comes with the energy, or they'll charge you by 100 feet, 10 feet, whatever it is. It can get very expensive if you're far from the road and you need to drag out thousands of feet. But in general, hooking up the electric is another really big one, Ron.
Yeah, I like that one. What are your thoughts on digging a well, I guess is the most common?
Out of these three, I'd say I'd probably do that last, but I think it is and it does depend the area you're in.
It matters the land too. Like if you have a land that like there's no other use for this land other than like you're on the crest. Like I think like with sloped land where it's a little harder to imagine maybe for an end buyer, like all these, like there's no other option for where you're going to build a house or something like this. Like I think that's amazing. That's where we're looking on that Colorado deal one time. It's like there's no other option for where they're going to build. Like we're going to have to do excavation, all this stuff. It's huge improvements. But if it's land where there's 15 building spots, then you want to be a little more careful with overdoing and determining where it's going to be for them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think these are all really good add-ons in general. Are we missing any, Ron? I think out of those three, the well would probably be the last that I did. But it depends the area, too. Like out in the desert in Arizona, a lot of people will offer contingent on wells and things like that, being able to get water.
I think a well is like $5-6 grand is probably pretty
It depends
normal.
how deep you have to go.
Yeah.
If you have to go 100 feet for a well versus 20 feet to hit water, it's a lot more expensive because they're dropping down.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think there's value. It's just definitely, again, we're trying to give you guys ideas on how to improve, how to make it more desirable. All of these, the desirability of the land when doing these correctly makes the land so much more desirable. You're going to flip it so fast because you're competing with other properties. Even if yours is listed $15,000 more, you're competing with 100% wooded property and you have a nice path going up to a cleared building spot. Like there's no competition. A lot of buyers are going to lean towards you, especially the less land savvy buyers. Last one we have, Dan, and something Landon, one of our students, longtime students, has been doing is putting small structures on the property. I'll see if I can find one on my phone here. But Landon's been putting, I think, hunting cabins on there, Dan. I don't know if it's got utility and stuff, but he's been doing a lot of small structures on bigger properties, which I think they cost like $5,000. A lot of these like Amish type cabins. Have you seen those?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is, I bet ROI-wise, and I'd love to talk to Landon about it, I bet ROI-wise it's probably the best. And he's got a good connection for it for sure, but like there's such a high ROI on it.
And there's a lot of things you got to look into when you're doing that. You need permits. A lot of times you will. It depends the type of cabin and how extensive it is, but you got to watch out for permits. They're going to appraise the land at a higher value. You got to watch out for taxes. You're going to have to be permitted a lot of times doing that, unless you wanted to do some sort of illegal structure, which is different. But if you want to market it as bedroom, bathrooms, hunting cabin, whatever it is, you might need permits. So always check that. But yeah, you're talking about putting a I mean, you can get some cheap Amish cabins. I've been looking a lot, Ron. I mean, you can get something decent, 30 to 50 grand, and you're going to get a lot more than that if it's nice on the.
I'll pull it up for
acquisition
YouTube,
side.
guys. Where's that? Let's see where that is. That's Landon's right there. I know it's kind of hard to see.
Okay, so for something like that, you won't
12.7. 12.7 for the cost is what he said.
Yeah, for something like that's what I was going to say. That's like a barn.
Yeah.
So something like that without utilities inside of it, no bathroom, no kitchen, anything like that. He's doing it for $12,700. He's not permitting it, I assume. And
He had a hunting stand added as well, and on top of that,
He's what?
had a hunting stand done on top of that as
So
well.
he's getting it ready for the end buyer. These are really good improvements. So he's getting a little cabin with a hunting stand and things like that, and you combine that with a couple cleared areas to that hunting cabin. You're gonna, I mean, $12,700 all in. That's
He said he thought it added like 30 grand, 35,000.
and sellability. Like people are gonna like that. I'd pay $30,000 a day to get a hunting property.
Yeah, you get 15 acres. I think it was 10 acres or something. You get 10
cleared
acres.
area, hunting cabin.
You get 10 acres for $80,000 or 10 acres with that for $110,000. Like it's a really no-brainer for most people. And the ROI for the end buyer is also really good. Like those are solidly built. Like they're not built and going to deteriorate in 5 years. Like those are going to be very, very solid long-term structures.
Yeah, and that's a very easy project because you're keeping it minimal. You're not building a 2,000 square foot house or anything. You don't need the slab. You don't need the permits. You don't need all this different stuff. You're literally plopping a hunting cabin and keeping it very simple.
So we have, guys, let's go through these real fast. We have subdividing, clearing, select clearing. We have driveways, we have utilities, and we have small structures. Those are the top 5. There's a lot that go into those. Like Dan said, perk test for utilities, other stuff. And a lot of this is very, very land determined. But Dan, what I wanted to ask you is like, who do you think should be doing these types of improvements, or does it matter which one? Or like, I don't like putting people in a box where their first land deal they couldn't put a structure on.
Or a perk test.
Yeah.
Or a little cleared area. I think it's for everyone. I think these are simple enough projects to where they're not too complicated. I'm not telling you to go entitle something for 18 months or anything like that. These are all fairly simple. I think this is really for anyone who's trying to sell their properties faster and for more money. It's just much more desirable on the sell side.
Make sure your margins still work out, guys. That's one of the things that I think could be a barrier for newer people to, and even me, like when I'm evaluating, like it's hard to predict. I can look at land prices all day long and have a pretty good idea of what it's going to sell for, but then you see a piece of land with a barn, and like determining the end value is where I think there can be some gaps. As far as like it's hard to understand because you're not going to see a like kind comp. You just know your property is better than the other properties.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have much more to add to that. I think this was solid.
Nice. Well, if you guys are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, share this with a friend. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for joining, guys.